I can't ruin my body for this. The words slipped from supermodel Vivian Sterling's lips as she stared down at the newborn in her arms, her voice cold as the sterile hospital room around them. At 26, she was at the pinnacle of her career, the face of 3 major fashion houses, commanding $50,000 per photo shoot, gracing magazine covers worldwide. Her agent Marcus had been clear. One pregnancy can end everything, Vivian. Your body is your business. Your curves are your currency. The baby, a perfect little girl with dark hair and curious eyes, reached up with tiny fingers toward her mother's face. Vivian pulled back. I've worked too hard for this, she whispered to her sister Claire, who sat stunned in the corner chair. Do you know what I sacrificed to get where I am? The diets, the workouts, the surgeries, the discipline. I can't throw it all away for this. Vivian, she's your daughter, Claire said softly, tears streaming down her face. Look at her. She needs you. What I need is to get back to Milan Fashion Week in 6 weeks, Vivian replied, not even glancing at the baby. I need to fit into a size 0. I need to maintain my contracts. You can't be serious. But Vivian was dead serious. She'd already made the arrangements. A private adoption through expensive lawyers. A story about going to rehab for exhaustion to explain her 6-month absence from the spotlight. A tummy tuck and body contouring surgery scheduled for next week. Claire, I'm 26 years old. I'm making $8 million a year. In this industry, I'm already considered old. I have maybe 4 good years left before they replace me with some 18-year-old from Eastern Europe. She handed the baby to Claire without ceremony. I'm not throwing away my career for a mistake. Claire held her niece close, feeling the infant's heartbeat against her chest. What about the father? What about him? David knew the deal. He's married anyway. This complicates nothing for him. So you're just walking away? Vivian was already reaching for her phone, texting her surgeon to confirm tomorrow's consultation. I'm making a smart business decision. What's her name? Claire asked desperately. You haven't even named her. Vivian paused at the door, her hand on the handle. For just a moment, something flickered in her eyes, doubt, regret, something almost human. Sophia, she said quietly. Her name is Sophia. Then she walked out and never looked back. Claire Sterling Morrison raised Sophia as her own daughter, never telling the little girl that her Aunt Vivian, who sent expensive gifts but never visited, was actually her biological mother. And Vivian Sterling continued her reign as fashion royalty, her body returning to its pre-pregnancy perfection, her career soaring to even greater heights. She became the highest-paid model of her generation, launching her own fashion line, appearing in blockbuster movies, dating billionaires and celebrities. She convinced herself she'd made the right choice. But the fashion industry is a cruel mistress, and time is undefeated. 18 years later, Vivian Sterling stood in the bathroom of her Malibu mansion, staring at her reflection with growing horror. At 44, the cracks were showing despite every surgical intervention, every experimental treatment, every desperate attempt to stop time. Her face was pulled too tight from too many lifts. Her lips were overfilled and unnatural. Her body, despite personal trainers and nutritionists, was fighting the inevitable battle against gravity and age. Younger models had replaced her. Her contracts had dried up. Her fashion line was struggling. Her last 3 relationships had ended when men half her age left her for women half their age. She was becoming invisible in the only world she'd ever known. The irony wasn't lost on her. She'd abandoned her daughter to preserve the very beauty that was now abandoning her. Miss Sterling, her assistant knocked on the door. The car is here for the charity gala. Vivian sighed. Another desperate attempt to stay relevant. Another photographer who might remember when she mattered. Another room full of people who would whisper about how she used to be beautiful. The children's hospital benefit wasn't her usual scene, but her publicist insisted it would be good for her image. Giving back was apparently fashionable now. She arrived at the Beverly Hills Hotel ballroom wearing a dress that cost more than most people's cars, her surgically enhanced body draped in borrowed diamonds, her face a carefully constructed mask of what beauty used to be. "Ladies and gentlemen," the announcer's voice echoed through the ballroom, "please welcome this year's Young Humanitarian of the Year, Dr. Sophia Morrison." Vivian's champagne glass slipped from her numb fingers, shattering on the marble floor. Sophia Morrison, her daughter, a young woman, walked onto the stage, and Vivian felt her heart stop. She was looking at herself from 20 years ago, but better. Sophia had Vivian's bone structure, her height, her grace, but there was something in her eyes that Vivian had never possessed: depth, kindness, genuine warmth. She was absolutely stunning, but her beauty was effortless, natural, untouched by desperation or artifice. "Thank you for this incredible honor," Sophia said into the microphone, her voice confident but humble. "3 years ago, I graduated medical school and chose to specialize in pediatric surgery because I believe every child deserves a chance at a healthy, happy life." Vivian couldn't breathe. "Today, I run a clinic that provides free medical care to underserved children, funded by the Morrison Foundation, established by my mother, the woman who raised me, loved me, and taught me that true beauty comes from what you give to the world, not what you take from it. Claire." Vivian saw her sister in the front row, tears of pride streaming down her face as she watched the daughter she'd raised accepting recognition for her humanitarian work. "My work with children born with cleft palates, spina bifida, and other conditions has taught me that perfection isn't about how you look," Sophia continued. "It's about how you love, how you serve, how you show up for people who need you most." The words hit Vivian like physical blows. "I see children every day who've been abandoned by parents who couldn't handle their imperfections," Sophia said, her voice getting emotional. "But I also see the incredible families who step up. Adoptive parents, grandparents, siblings who choose love over convenience." Vivian realized she was crying, her carefully applied makeup running down her cheeks. "My Aunt Claire, who I call Mom because that's what she's always been to me, taught me that family isn't about biology. It's about choice. It's about showing up. It's about putting someone else's needs before your own." The presentation continued with details about Sophia's medical achievements, her clinic's impact, her plans to expand free healthcare to more communities. But Vivian couldn't hear anything over the roaring in her ears. This was her daughter, her blood, her genetics, and Sophia had become everything Vivian had never been: selfless, purposeful, genuinely beautiful from the inside out. After the ceremony, Vivian found herself in the receiving line, her legs moving without conscious thought toward the daughter she'd abandoned. "Congratulations, Dr. Morrison," she managed to say, her voice hoarse. "Your work is inspiring." "Thank you," Sophia replied politely, then paused, studying Vivian's face. "You look familiar. Have we met?" Vivian's heart pounded. Did Sophia recognize something in her features? Some genetic similarity? "I don't think so."
I'm Vivian Sterling."
"The model." Sophia's expression shifted slightly. "My mom used to have your magazine covers everywhere when I was little. She said you were the most beautiful woman in the world." The past tense hit like a knife. "Your mom has good taste," Vivian said weakly. "She does. She taught me that real beauty is about character, not appearance." Sophia's gaze was direct, intelligent. She always said that the women on magazine covers were probably deeply unhappy because they built their entire identity on something so temporary. Vivian felt her carefully constructed world crumbling. "That seems harsh," she whispered. "Maybe, but she was trying to protect me from thinking that my worth came from how I looked instead of who I was." Sophia smiled warmly. She succeeded. "I've never cared much about fashion or beauty standards. I care about healing people." Before Vivian could respond, Claire appeared beside Sophia. "Sophia, darling, there are some donors who'd like to meet you," Claire said, then froze when she saw Vivian. 28 years of pain and anger flashed in Claire's eyes. "Vivian," she said icily. "Hello, Claire," Vivian replied, her voice barely audible. "Wait." Sophia looked between them, confused. "You two know each other?" "We're sisters," Claire said carefully. "We haven't spoken in many years." Sophia's medical training kicked in. She could read people, situations, emotional undercurrents. "How many years?" she asked quietly. Claire and Vivian stared at each other. 18 years of silence stretching between them. "About 18 years," Vivian whispered. Sophia went very still. She was brilliant, one of the youngest doctors to ever graduate from Johns Hopkins. She could do the math. 18 years, she repeated slowly. That's exactly how long I've been your daughter, Mom." Claire's eyes filled with tears. "Sophia, she started. "You're my biological mother," Sophia said to Vivian, her voice steady despite the shock. "Aren't you?" Vivian nodded, unable to speak. "And you gave me away." It wasn't a question. "Yes," Vivian whispered. "Why?" The simple question hung in the air like a judgment. Vivian looked around desperately, aware that other gala attendees were starting to notice the intense conversation happening. "I was young. I was scared. My career." "Your career," Sophia repeated flatly. "You chose modeling over your own child. You don't understand the pressure, the industry, what I would have lost." "What you would have lost?" Sophia's voice was getting sharper. "What about what I lost? What about growing up wondering why my mother didn't want me?" "But you had Claire. You had a wonderful mother." "I had an aunt who stepped up because my mother was too selfish to be bothered." Sophia shot back. People were definitely staring now. "I'm sorry," Vivian said desperately. "I know I made mistakes, but look how well you turned out." "I turned out well despite you," Sophia said, echoing the words Vivian's sons had spoken to Richard Blackstone in a different ballroom years before. "Because the woman who raised me taught me values you clearly never had." "I can explain." "Explain what?" "That you thought your appearance was more important than your child? That you valued magazine covers more than your daughter's life?" Vivian felt like she was drowning. "I was 26. I had worked so hard. You were old enough to make a baby, but too immature to raise one," Sophia interrupted. "Do you know what's ironic about this?" Vivian shook her head. "You abandoned me to preserve your beauty. But look at you now." The words were like a slap. "You're 44 years old, desperately clinging to a youth that's gone, surgically altered beyond recognition, alone at a charity event trying to buy relevance." Sophia's voice was clinical, detached. "While I'm 18, naturally beautiful because I'm happy, successful in a career that actually matters, surrounded by people who love me for who I am, not what I look like. You got everything you said you wanted, the magazine covers, the money, the fame. And what did it get you?" Vivian couldn't answer because the truth was too painful. It had gotten her nothing that mattered. "Mom," Sophia turned to Claire. "I think we should go." "Sophia, please," Vivian begged. "I know I made terrible choices, but we could try to build something now." "Build something?" Sophia laughed bitterly. "You had 18 years to build something. You chose not to. I was different then. I was focused on the wrong things. And now you're only here because your career is over and you're desperate," Sophia said with devastating accuracy. "If you were still booking magazine covers, would you be trying to reconnect with the daughter you abandoned?" The question hung in the air because they all knew the answer. "That's what I thought," Sophia said quietly. "I'm sorry," Vivian whispered, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so sorry." "Sorry for what?" "Sorry you abandoned me? Sorry you missed my childhood? Sorry you chose vanity over love? All of it." Or are you just sorry that you're getting old and lonely and you finally realize what you threw away? The accuracy was brutal. Please don't shut me out, Vivian begged. I know I don't deserve it. But you're right, Sophia said simply. You don't deserve it. Sophia, you made your choice 18 years ago. You chose your reflection in the mirror over your reflection in your daughter's eyes. The metaphor was perfect and devastating. Now I'm making my choice. I choose the woman who actually raised me. I choose the family that chose me. I choose people who value substance over surfaces. What does that mean? It means goodbye, Vivian. It means you're not my mother. You're just the woman who gave birth to me and walked away. It means, Claire added, putting her arm around Sophia protectively, that some mistakes can't be forgiven just because you finally realized they were mistakes. As they walked away, Vivian caught her reflection in the ballroom's mirrored wall. For the first time in years, she saw herself clearly. She saw a woman who had traded everything real for something temporary. She saw someone who had chosen the worship of strangers over the love of her own child. She saw the hollow shell of someone who had confused beauty with worth, image with identity, admiration with love. Standing alone in that ballroom, surrounded by the charity event she'd attended to boost her fading image, Vivian Sterling finally understood the true cost of the choice she'd made 18 years ago. She hadn't just lost a daughter. She'd lost the chance to become the kind of woman who deserved to call herself a mother. She'd chosen the mirror over the child, and now the mirror showed her nothing but the consequences of that choice. The woman who had abandoned her baby to preserve her beauty had ended up alone, artificially enhanced, desperately seeking relevance in a world that had moved on without her. While the daughter she'd rejected had grown into the kind of natural, authentic beauty that comes from purpose, compassion, and love, everything Vivian had never understood. That night, Vivian Sterling went home to her empty mansion, looked at herself in her bathroom mirror, and finally saw the truth. She had spent 44 years worshiping her reflection, only to discover that the most beautiful thing she'd ever created was the daughter she'd been too vain to love. And now it was too late. Some choices, once made, can never be undone. Some opportunities, once lost, never come again. The woman who had chosen beauty over love had ended up with neither. The daughter who had been denied her mother's love had ended up with everything that truly mattered. Sometimes the mirror reflects more than just your face. Sometimes it shows you exactly who you really are. And sometimes that reflection is too painful to bear.